Hello everyone and welcome to a rather different video today. I'm going to be doing a read-along similar to the one I did for The Sunrise on the Reaping. If you haven't seen that, go check that video out. But today I took it upon myself to cover the BOOKTOK romances, as you know, with the screenshots of out-of-context things where the man is being overpossessive most of the time and the woman is in danger. We have one outlier today, which is a man and a man. So I guess there's that. I get them so often that I was curious enough that I had to click on them. I had to find the book. And here we are. Come along with me on this journey to read 3 very interesting books. They are not something I would usually read. I do partake in romance on occasion, but usually it's not these kinds, aka BOOKTOK. Not really a fan of her, but I'm willing to see it out. I currently have 1 for a ebook version and then 2 on hold for audiobook. We'll start with ebook tonight. That's what I'm most scared of, so we're starting off strong. Okay, I am back for a 50% update, and ignore my closet in the background. I have a bunch of laundry, but this book is genuinely insane. Like, I could not have mentally prepared myself at all. I knew bare bones about this. I just read the description, that was it. This is insane. In the first chapter, there is a line that says, "No surprise there, as he always loves standing out. The freakier the better." And I feel like that just encapsulates what this entire book is going to be. So, as I said, I read 50% of it. It's really long. It's 500 pages, so I've read a good amount. Everything I've read, I have not liked. But that's neither here nor there. In the first chapter, we are introduced to our first POV, which is our first main character, and his name is Gareth, which is a crazy name. It's very old-timey. That's because he is a family of Russian mafia. Not important, it's okay. And he is at a party for a rival family of this Russian mafia, and he's trying to plot against the main inheritant of that family because they're like feuding. And his name is Julian. I don't know how you pronounce it because they are inherently Russian names, I guess. But yeah. Does anyone speak Russian? No, they're just Russian mafia. And then when he tries to plot against this man, he ends up actually getting faked out by another man pretending to be him because he was realizing that he drugged his drink because he thought that Gareth was going to rape Julian. He decided to rape him. Also, I will try and censor myself as much as I can because, like, if I say words a bunch, it's not going to be good. But let's just say that he uses a gun in a way that shouldn't be allowed. His name, we later learn, is Peyton. But just know that this first interaction that they have is technically rape in the sense of blowjobs. We're just going to leave it there. That's the first introduction we get to these 2 main characters. Gareth gets out of there real quick because he does not like the situation that he's in. The important thing about Gareth is that he has a, you could say, psychotic side to him. His brother is like diagnosed with psychotic symptoms and things like that, so he is constantly thinking about killing people in a way that's not healthy, but he is putting on an act to everyone else, like to his family, as being like a perfect boy with straight A's and is completely sane because he doesn't want to be anything like his brother. And this is because his parents don't really like his brother because he's clinically insane, but Gareth is just playing on that and he's like, yeah, I'm actually perfect. And the opening scene just reflects anything that I don't like in the first half of this book, which is most of upcoming sexual encounters that the 2 main characters have are usually rape. At least I think the first like 5 are. There's many. Yeah, I read 250 pages, there's many. Technically this is a dark romance. I just was not prepared for that. But about like page 150, Gareth reveals that he actually posted something on Reddit to help him get some insight on the situation he ends up being in. I feel like he encapsulates the first half of the book because nothing really happens. So I will read that for you because it's better than me having to give you every detail. He starts talking about his sexuality first, which is an important plot. So yeah, that's your context. Let me start by saying this. I'm not gay. I've never been into men or found them remotely attractive. But if I'm honest, I haven't exactly felt that way about women either. I've just gone through the motions because, well, society. I can get hard when needed and make sure the girls have a good time, but truthfully, it feels like a chore. I don't enjoy it, except for the climax and maybe a little bit of power play. Important part, power play. That's what half this book is reading about. Now here comes the curveball, my superior. AKA, I'll give you some context here. Turns out Caden is his professor. He finds this out like the next day. He is teaching criminal justice and he makes them do a mock rape case. The discussion of rape in this book I thought was going to be like insightful because like it happens on many occasions, it's just like dubious consent. Then they do a mock trial and it's like, oh yeah, rape is bad, but then they don't act like rape is bad when it's happening with two main characters. I won't go into details about how we met or where, but let's just say it wasn't under ideal circumstances. I hated him on sight, yet somehow this guy had unleashed a side of me I didn't know existed. He's the only man I've ever found attractive and is driving me out of my mind. I can't stand him as a person, but every time he's near, I get this primal age to push back, to defy him. Of course, he loves the cat and mouse game. The whole dynamic is infuriating. He then talks about their sexual encounters. I don't have to do that too. That's not important. Anyway, he posted on Reddit, so that's his business. But he said like, oh yeah, like I've never had sex with a man, but like I was kind of into that, and like that's really weird for me. Basically, what he's saying is that he doesn't want to take control when they're having sex together because it feels weird to him. Now he's ghosted me. Part of me is relieved, but the other part, seething, frustrated. He claimed he wasn't into men either. And I don't know if I buy it, especially since he always seemed ready to. Well, you get the picture. So what's happening here? Is it just some weird one-time thing, or am I headed for the mother of all sexuality crises? See, when they started talking about having sexuality crisis, I thought it was going to be like, oh, tongue-in-cheek, red, white, and blue. This is instead kind of evil and mean, because every single time they're like exploring their sexuality, it is only with each other, and it is dubious consent every single time. Where I'm at in the book now, it's more consentful. I wish I could say this completely. It is more of the fact that Gareth enjoys having little consent, if that makes sense. He's consenting to no consent, which I don't find great. If I were to say there's anything happening in plot, it's very minuscule. These two rival families, they fight every so often and they try and kill each other, but I don't know if they're like actually killing each other. There's an outside scene at some point and it's really it just is an excuse for them to like have sex in public in the woods. But actual plot that happens is Kaden gets incredibly sick. At least everyone thinks he's sick. Anyone surrounding him is like very mysterious. Like Gareth doesn't know anything about people that he knows, but then Gareth is stalking him, which happened earlier in the book. That's not important. But he's stalking him again when he calls in sick for like a week. So he goes to his apartment and there's people taking care of him there, which are both his moms. What actually happened is that his biological mom was getting abused by his dad, and so she ended up escaping from that situation and getting married to like her best friend, which is so Kaden chose to stay with his dad after that. So we can see why he's a little rougher on the edges, because he stayed with his abuser father. He also has a brother who is apparently insane. I don't know exactly why yet. That's like still a mystery that's going on, but he does not speak to his brother and like is trying everything in his way to get away from him. And the reason that he's sick is because he was getting his childhood best friend to keep him away from his brother longer by helping him with medical experiments, and he was the test subject, so he was like getting weird injections in him, I'm pretty sure, but it made him like incredibly sick. But he just told his moms that he got into like a car accident or something. But Gareth is really confused by this because he knows that he doesn't drive, because they are living in a university type of community in England. I don't know, they're British, I think. That's really rubbing me the wrong way too, because I'm like, why are you British? I don't think Kaden is British because his brother is from the States, and I'm pretty sure his dad is from the States, but that's neither here nor there. No, and neither is Gareth, actually, because his dad is in the States as well. So it's like a boarding school type of deal. But like, why is it set in Britain? A little weird if you ask me. I was going to DNF this because I was in psychosis last night. Not gonna lie, I read so much of this last night, and I shouldn't have. But then I went on TikTok to go find the original TikTok that I found this book off of, and I couldn't. But I found one. But then I was looking through reviews of it, and people were like, I love this book so much. Like, I have like such great things. And I was like, what are we seeing that I'm not seeing? So either it's like a screw loose in the TikTok community's brain that I'm like, where are we? Because like the tension was so good. So tension and rape are tied together, I guess, right there, because what tension? And now that I'm at 50, if y'all must know, they have full penetration sex by now. And they're both now accepting that they're attracted to men if they're each other. But the reason that I stopped here, because I was like, oh, this is a good stopping point. And actually, I saw the spoiler on TikTok when I was looking through stuff, and I was like, I have to keep reading, because what does that mean? It sadly did draw me in, because I was like, what is going on here? And it is simply Kaden is talking about, because it's dual POV. So in his POV, he's talking about how he's getting a little too attached to Gareth because he is his student, but he's a law student. I never said that, which I should have. Gareth is 22 and no, almost 22. I don't think he is 22, and Kaden is 33. So it's 11-year age gap, which like in certain things it could be okay, but it's the power imbalance of, for the first time they had any relation, he was literally being held at gunpoint, but then also he's his teacher. So yeah, power imbalance, let's just say that. Which is why I usually don't read professor student stuff. I don't mess with that. But yeah, the ending line of chapter 19, so right at 50, he's talking about how it's like a big problem for him, because he says, because I liked kissing him more than I've liked kissing anyone, my wife included. So not only is this whole shit thing, but it might be an affair. I don't know. I don't know if his wife is alive. No mention of a wife beforehand. There was some mention from one of his moms that was like, oh, you need to get over her. So maybe she is dead, or maybe she left. I don't know. So many questions, but I don't think this will go over well. But I think we're getting into plot, and I really need that. for the last half of this book. It's so long. Also, this is the first like book I've read. I've been strict audiobook for a while. It's not a great one to start with. Let's just say that. I kind of feel like I'm going insane, but yeah, that's kind of what's happening. I feel like I'm missing a lot of stuff. At the same time, like there's nothing has been happening. I can't believe I forgot to say. But the reason I was so shocked at the beginning of that reaction that you saw was partly from the trigger warnings, because I was like, what are we getting into? But then the book opens before you get into any chapter. It is indeed a picture of fan art. I guess that's your visual representation. It's very like, this guy's blonde and this guy has black hair. So they're different, but they're both buff and tall. Yeah, I will see you back if anything monumental happens or at the end of the book. We'll see. As you saw, I didn't need to finish the book. I'm free. It was a long time coming. 500 pages is too much for the stuff that happened. AKA, since I left you at 50%, all the plot has happened in that past 50%. So literally the first 50% could have not happened and it wouldn't have changed anything. And the second half was better. Is that just because they didn't have sex that much? From what I remember, it actually wasn't that much. I read the last 50% of this book last night and today I finished it. So I just wanted to get through it. The area that I left you on of Caden indeed having a wife, I will just explain now because it's better to give some background for the plot that's going to happen. Basically, he was married to a woman named Cassandra and she died 2 years ago. So obviously he's not technically married now. So it's not cheating. It's just a rather suspect relationship of a power imbalance. Anyway, that doesn't cause any problems right now because that was only a thought in his inner monologue. But what is happening right when we pick off 50%, they are exclusive in the respective, they're only with each other, but they're not technically dating because they are both now coming to terms with their sexuality. It's they don't want to push it, and so they're not like technically dating, and also they can't be dating because he's still his professor. So if a relationship they have, they're keeping a secret. They do get caught by Gareth's cousin named Nikolai, but he goes by Nico, and he is bi icon, so he doesn't care. They're together. He is kind of suspect as the fact that he is his professor, but he doesn't care enough, basically. He's just happy that he has someone else to talk to about lucky men, I guess. Also, Gareth is talking to a guy that he met on Reddit, who turns out to be one of his friends who moved to the States. So he figures this out because he's talking about the guy that he was plotting against in the beginning of the book, Julian. It's because this friend of his named Javon is in love with him, which is crazy. And Julian sent him a video of himself with his girlfriend at the time and saying like, this could be me and you, but he said it in Russian. That is actually a spoiler I got from TikTok. It literally was not even inside this book, but just know that happened. Like, that's going on in the background. I can see that their relationship is also toxic, but I just wish I was in that story instead of this one, because sadly we are still have to talk about this. A standing issue that is coming up is the fact that Gareth's kind of obsessive tendencies is very related to the ties that he has with people. So he becomes obsessed with a person, and this makes him like very clingy, but also makes him very jealous. And so if Caden has any interactions with people who are his age or is like a slightly flirting interaction, Gareth will go like batshit insane. The problem is that it creates a codependency because Gareth is so tied to Caden that he will listen to anything Caden says. And so Caden is trying to quell these like obsessive tendencies by telling him what to do, which does work, but it's also harmful to a certain degree. Anyway, it is a sense of communication. So at least there's that. They do comment on their first interaction being a sense of rape, and they kind of just like talk about it jokingly. Like, it is not taken seriously necessarily, at least as serious as I would like it to be taken, but just know that they're both past that. Gareth also has a thing of like protecting people who he deems as like his, if that makes sense. Like, he really is protective of his brother because it's like one of his people, if you will. And so he's also this way with Caden to the point where if he sees anyone near him, that he's like, I'm gonna kill that person. Happens very often. That's neither here nor there. Anyway, this stems from the fact that he saw his teacher who was like possibly grooming him. We can't even talk about that. Anyway, he died. He got killed. And so this really messed with Gareth's head. The backstory was important. Like, literally, I would remember it. And I really don't. I don't remember the circumstances of how he got killed. And I really don't care. With relationship stuff out of the way, we now get into actual plot. So this is where the wife plot point comes back. Basically, this whole time Gareth has had a PI following Caden just to figure out things about him without his consent, but that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that Caden knew the entire time, and it was actually one of his like employees, if you will, that was the PI. But someone anonymously messages Gareth and says your PI has been lying to you, and sends a video of the wedding between Caden and Cassandra. This basically sends him into a spiral because he's realized that Caden has been lying to him this entire time, and also that fact that he has a wife. And of course, this is tied to his fact of being overly jealous and very connected to Caden, so he feels this times 10, if you will. And Caden knows the fact that he knows because he calls him, he's like, so you have a wife. And then this was right when Caden was talking to someone else about telling him, so he's like, oh, did someone tell him already? That's really freaking weird. But he's trying to talk him down over the phone, and it is not working. Gareth is inside of Caden's apartment, and he ends up hurting himself because he wants to get Caden out of his blood, if you will. And this leads to him to get blood all over the apartment. But then he gets kidnapped.
She thought you were kidnapped! She thought you were kidnapped! It's kidnapped! Oh my god!
By the person who messaged him about the whole thing to begin with, and that is Cassandra's brother, so Caden's brother-in-law. And his name is Declan, and he is Irish. Is it important that he's Irish? No, but just know that he talks in an Irish accent the entire time, and that really gagged me into a quirk. So I was like, why make him Irish? It makes no sense. And you might be wondering, why does Declan even care about ruining this relationship with Gareth? So whole can of worms. Basically, the story is that Caden is actually incredibly rich, and he is the heir to this very prestigious family in the States, where they are a mercenary group. I really don't know what they do. They kill people, and it's for politics or something. But his real last name is Davenport, which made me crack up every single time I read it. I'm not gonna lie. What do you mean that his last name is Davenport? And not only that, but they have a 4 group of the richest families that work together for this cause, and one of them is Osborne. You would be going up in so bad. Anyway, so his real name is Caden Davenport. He was going under the name Lockwood when he was being a professor. He actually never studied law, false credentials. He just wanted to move there because he has been hunting down all the people who killed his wife, because not only was she killed by this group of men, but they also raped her before they killed her. And so he kind of has this vengeance to avenge his wife's life. I'm just going to do this because they're elusive in the book for a while about why he did this for his wife. You would think that's because it was his wife, but he really didn't actually love her in the way of romantic. It was that was someone he respected, and so he wanted to avenge her in that way. But it wasn't really a romantic love. They had an open marriage, and it was more of a business transaction. So it wasn't that deep in the feeling side. He was just more of the principle of avenging her life. In this group of guys, he was led to believe that Gareth's grandfather was one of the people who was there, and so he was trying to hunt his grandson specifically to basically ruin his life before he killed him, to torture him, because he was the last person on this list of people that he was killing. And he started with Gareth by finding him at that party that one day, and was especially cruel because he thought that he was raping Julian, but of course he wasn't. He just didn't know that. But after that encounter, he formed an attachment with him or whatever. So that plan changed. And when this is all being uncovered, they're also in love with each other by this point, built on the fact that they spent so much time together, but I don't really care. Anyway, the reason that Caden is beefing with his brother so much is that his brother basically became his father, and his father was an abuser. He obviously abused his mother, but then he also abused him. And the only reason that he has stayed with him when he could have been staying with his mom is because his brother found them, and Caden basically made a deal that if he went willingly, then they wouldn't hurt his moms. Back to the secret plotting of it all. Obviously, he wasn't planning on hurting Gareth after their attachment or whatever, and he also was never going to hurt his grandpa after that, because he didn't want to hurt someone that Gareth thought so high of, because Gareth loves his grandpa, because his grandpa actually knows about his psychotic side and doesn't care at all. He keeps it a secret for him, because the last thing Gareth wants is to be diagnosed like his brother, because he thinks that his father will think less of him that way. And this is because his grandpa actually saw him in the after effects of killing a person. And I will just explain this now, because it isn't directly related to the plot, but it's a whole plot point. Basically, he only had 2 serious relationships in his life, the one with Caden counting as the second, because the first one was in high school, I do believe, but he had a girlfriend named Harper, and she was being sexually assaulted by her father after her mom passed, which is horrific. But basically, after she told Gareth all of this, she ended up killing herself, and so he killed her father out of vengeance for this, because he was an awful man. And so after he killed him, he kind of needed a cleanup crew, so he called his grandpa, and he was like, so I just want to clean up a body for me. And his grandpa was like, okay, as long as he deserved it. And before everything came out, Gareth was asking Caden about coming out as an actual couple outside of the whole professor business, afterwards, if you will. Caden basically said oh no, I can't do that. And that's because the business that his family works under, they hate gay people. So if one of the members is gay, then they will kill you. That's literally point there's no way around that. And so he doesn't want to hurt Gareth by association. He doesn't really care about himself necessarily. Back to the fact of the matter of Gareth finding out, they end up taking him to the States, I think, to torture him. And this is because they want to get back at Caden for giving up on the mission of avenging Cassandra's death. But they realize that all the physical torture they do on Gareth isn't working because he's like so numb at this point. He's like actually outside of his body because he is so heartbroken by this whole situation. But then they end up torturing him by showing him videos of Caden and Cassandra like together. That's like what really breaks him, and so he like starts hurting himself because of it. So he like is banging his head against the wall, like giving himself a concussion right then and there. And this is like 3 days after the whole thing was found out, and Caden couldn't catch him in time before he got kidnapped, and so he ends up finding his location and going in with a whole team of people to get him out, and he does manage to do that. At that point, Gareth loses a lot of blood, and he gave himself a concussion by hitting his head against the wall thousands of times, and so he is in like recovery for a while. Caden does call his grandpa, and he's like, hey, I have your grandson, he's safe, because he's been missing for like 3 days. He just needs to recover a little bit. And then his grandpa's like, who are you? And he's like, Caden Davenport, because he's like a well-known name. And then he's like, why do you have my grandson? Like, what is the situation going on? And long story short, Gareth wakes up, and then he's really mad at Caden. He's like, I never want to see you again. He's doing this to protect himself because he like feels physically broken by this whole situation. And so Caden ends up taking him to his parents' house in New York, and he stays there, and Caden doesn't get out of his life, but he sends 2 guards to guard him because Declan is still alive and on the run. And one of these 2 guards is the PI that Gareth thought he had hired, but it of course was Caden's friend the entire time. And she's like an ex-military person, I don't know, something like that. Anyway, long story short is that Gareth gets better. He also has a talk with both his grandpa and his dad about the fact that his dad knew that he was psychotic the entire time, and he's completely fine with it, as in like he wants to help him, so he's not like ashamed of him or anything, which is what Gareth thought. And so they're on good terms. He is a happier human in the respect of his family. And also his brother finds out that he is like the same, and so they bond a little bit over that. But he is also kind of going through it because he was incredibly attached to Caden, and then now this is being taken away. And he's going to go back to England for school. But then he hears from the person who's guarding him that Caden has to go on the run because someone sent a video of him and Gareth together to one of the families that runs the big company, which like shows that he's gay, and so they're hunting him down. It's mostly his brother that's hunting him down because he wants him to like come back to the business, I think. And this is after Gareth also finds out about the whole like loveless marriage thing and stuff like that. So he's still mad at him, but he's like more understanding about the fact that he wasn't really attached to his wife in the way that he thinks. Anyway, he takes it upon himself to go see Caden in like his safe house because he's worried that he's gonna die. When he gets there, they make up in a sense, aka they have sex, but that's not here nor there. One of the story is that like they're at an understanding that they're like obsessed with each other, if that makes sense. And so they're kind of at a good place. But of course, this moment is ruined by the fact that they get found by Aiden's brother. And so house gets like shot up. Caden sends Gareth away because he doesn't want him to get hurt. But then Gareth doesn't listen to that, of course, and so he comes back right when Caden's brother has him at gunpoint, and so he is like running up, trying to protect him, but then Caden sees that his brother turns the gun to him, and so he runs in front of Gareth and takes a bullet for him. And this really pisses Gareth off because right before he was like, wait, you can't die, I'm not allowing that. And Caden was like, okay, I won't die. But he, of course, took a bullet for him, leading him in harm's way. But is this really important? No, because he ends up being okay. They take him to a hospital and he lives. Like, it's not that serious. And this is also when Gareth realizes that his psychotic tendencies are better when Caden is in his life because he fills the void that he feels inside of him. The technical ending of the book is them in the hospital after Caden like lives and everything. But the epilogue, first, it's from Gareth's POV. There's epilogue 1. And that's just about Caden meeting his family and stuff like that. And he's like really happy, even though his grandpa and his dad are very non-accepting of Caden from the fact his grandpa more from the fact that he's older than him and the fact that he was a professor and he is convinced that he like manipulated him to be in a relationship, which is fair concerns when no one is looking into it like he is. And his dad more from the fact that he doesn't like him. But they're getting over it slowly but surely. Just because they realize that Gareth is happier with him. And in the second epilogue, which is from Caden's POV, they have like a dinner with Nico and his boyfriend. They're going on a walk specifically in New York after a hockey game, after a short bit of jealousy from the fact that Gareth was talking to Caden's nephew, who is his crazy brother's son, who he still talks to. It's crazy. Also, he left the company. I don't know how they just like let him go, but it's neither here nor there. He has the Russian mafia protection. I don't care. He was talking to his nephew, and his nephew like looks like him and is Gareth's age, so he gets jealous. But that's neither here nor there. They're going on a walk that night, and they pass a house that Gareth once said was like really pretty, and because of that, Caden literally buys the house, and he's like, yeah, this is our house now. And it's in New York because it's near his parents, and that's why he liked the house. And like, that's crazy. He just bought a whole house. But then he proposes, and they talk about the fact that he got on one knee, but the only thing I could think about was the Shane Dawson proposal picture where he's on 2 knees. That's all I could think about. Gareth does accept, and he gets on 2 knees to accept, which is crazy. It's like he knew what I was thinking of in that moment. And then they talk about the fact that both of their last names are going to be Davenport, and I genuinely was like going insane because they were saying like, oh, Mr. Davenport. I was like... Anyway, yeah, I had a right to be scared about this book. I never want to think about it again. I'm so glad I'm done. The beginning was way worse, though. The beginning was way worse. Second half I could handle because I was like kind of gagged about everything that was happening. The random Irishman. Oh, the Irishman did get killed. Sorry, I forgot to mention he did get killed. He got tortured and killed. Also, is the codependency thing still an issue? Well, of course, but they're not going to comment on that. It's unhealthy, but they're just going to let it be, you know? Like, he literally can't be apart from him for more than 5 days. They say that in the epilogue. I'm like, oh, look at that like it's a good thing. Okay. They also do get a cat. Kind of unrelated, but he just like picks it up as a stray, and Gareth really likes it, so it proves that like he has some empathy. He kind of does a character switch near the end once he's with Caden again. Like, his mental issues get better, and then he's like way more empathetic and way more like compassionate. And I don't think that's how that works. He's also like undiagnosed. I have no idea what mental issue he has, so I can't really say if it's accurate or not. And I'm also not an expert. At the same time, like, I feel like it's kind of an unfair representation of it, but that's neither here nor there. This book, I really hated the beginning, which overshadows anything they could have said in the end. And I also don't like any of the discussions they had surrounding the themes that they had going on, aka like the mental issues or the rape aspect of the entire book. And so I don't love rating books. I just do it for the fact that I have to keep things like logged in my apps and everything. But this would be like 1 star. Genuinely, I never want to see her again. 20% update. I am here back sooner from the past one that I read because I'm actually enjoying myself, believe it or not. Here's where I am in the crochet project. I did make decent progress while I was listening to the audiobook, and 20%, it's a pretty long one, so it's a good amount of hours, but I listen to my audiobooks on 3 times speed, which some could say means I'm not comprehending anything that's being said, but if anything, I'm more efficient. I'm crocheting while listening to people speaking at 3 times speed. Like, I'm on a different level. Anyway, in the prologue of this book, we meet our characters in the first year of college, like beginning of college, like first party, if you will. Sorry, it got incredibly hot in here because I did turn off my fan, but whatever. In the prologue, we meet one of our main characters, Ro, and she is very excited to like experience college, but she's also very nervous because she's like hasn't had her first kiss yet and hasn't done any of that. But her roommate that she's with is like very adventurous and takes her to this like party where she's like having her meet a bunch of random guys for some reason. Ro ends up meeting this guy who is like a campus celebrity, if you will. Like, everyone loves him because he's on the hockey team and he's really hot. And he's obviously a freshman as well, but everyone knows him. Anyway, she is surprised to be talking to this man because she's like, oh my god, like, everyone loves you and you're a really hot man. But then with some alcohol in her and everything, they end up kissing. And she's like, oh my god, that was my first kiss and that was the best kiss I've ever had in my life. This is only one, but that's neither here nor there. And I don't know if we get his POV in the prologue. I think he enjoys it as well. That's all we're going to do that because we're time skipping. Chapter 1 and the rest of the book, if you will, happens in their senior year of college. So that happened and they didn't talk about it ever. And now Ro is a very studious student and she is in like a tutoring system. And part of this tutoring system as well is her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's name is Tyler and he is definition of a fuck ass man. Like, he is genuinely the worst person ever. And I mean this so seriously. He has no redeemable qualities, at least that I found so far. I've read 20% of the book after all, and he's only gotten worse. He hates his girlfriend. I'd just like to point that out. And he always, like, on a schedule, almost breaks up with her and says like, oh, let's just be casual for a while so then he can go cheat on her basically with some other girl that he sees at like this convention every year. And this is because she's like at a higher standing than Ro, because Ro is feminine, I guess, because she's like too girly for his taste. Genuinely, every single thing that she says this man does is comically evil. He literally hates her so much. And her closest friend, who's also her roommate now, is trying to tell her this every single time that Tyler breaks up with her, but Ro is not hearing it. She keeps on getting back with this man. It has happened for the entire time that they've been dating. I think they've been dating for 2 years now, and he generally does not care about her at all. And this is also seen through the fact that him and this other guy in the tutoring group are having a problem with a certain student, and so they pawn the student off on Ro because they're like, oh yeah, she can deal with that. And then he makes a bet for his own girlfriend. Technically, they're on like this casual thing right now, but they're still dating. It doesn't really matter. The guy that they're having her tutor is going to try and sleep with her. Like, genuinely, he's like, oh, I would bet that he's going to try and get in her pants first. Do you care about your girlfriend, like, at all? Like, genuinely. Anyway, this man has the gall to also be protective of her when he is an asshole to her 24/7. So if she's talking to another man, he's like, you shouldn't be doing that. Even though they're technically broken up at this point by his standards, because he can go off and be with other girls. Ro's roommate, whose name is Sadie, convinces her to go out to a party because why would she not? Like, school hasn't started yet technically, and like she is a senior, like she's allowed. Because Tyler doesn't like her drinking. Why is your life being controlled by a man who hates you? I don't know. At this party, she gets low-key really drunk. And Sadie ends up talking to some guy who used to be on the hockey team, but then he got like severely injured and now is coming back. I don't know anything about him nor their relationship. No idea what's going on there. But with this hockey guy that just came back is the guy that she kissed at the party their freshman year, and his name is, everyone calls him Freddie, which I think is actually based on his last name, but that's not there. His name is Freddie. And Freddie and Ro end up chatting it up because Ro is severely drunk and he is taking care of her because she's like almost killing herself everywhere she goes. And they end up talking by the pool, which I don't know why he would let a drunk girl by the pool, but that's neither here nor there. He was completely sober, so he is watching over her. And they end up having a like actual heart to heart where she's talking about how her boyfriend sucks because he does. And he is like telling her that she doesn't deserve that because she's really pretty. And I think he also talks about his struggles, but I don't remember. Anyway, they jump into the pool together because she like jumps off of a shed or something like that. I have no idea. But then apparently she is so drunk that she blacks out all of this information. So the next morning she has no recollection of any of it. And lo and behold, the next day she has a tutoring session with the new boy, and the new boy is Freddie because he actually struggles with dyscalculia, dyslexia, and ADHD. So he struggles in academics a lot. So that's why he's being tutored over the summer because it's his senior year. And if he doesn't pass his biology class this year, then he won't graduate, I'm pretty sure. And he is on the hockey team. And so he wants to graduate before he goes to the NHL because he's already gotten a like contract with an NHL team. He's that good. So he doesn't technically need to graduate, but he wants to graduate. And we don't know the reasons behind that yet, but from his chapters in his POV, he says like, oh yeah, I want to make her proud of me. I do believe he's talking about his mom, but I don't know for sure about that. And I also don't know if his mom is alive. Also, speaking of parents, another thing, Tyler is mad at Ro constantly for missing her parents, which is so weird. Because like she's what, maybe 2021? Why is he mad at her for being homesick in college? I don't get it because he's like, oh yeah, like it's so weird, you're so connected to your mom. Do you have mommy issues? Like what is your problem? Genuinely, I don't understand the gall of that man. Like I don't get why he hates his girlfriend so much. Genuinely, just break up with her for good. Ro is completely nervous around Freddie because she has been so obsessed with this man for years, as in like he's the hottest guy on campus. So she's like, even though I have a boyfriend, that's my man right there. Like she's literally obsessed with him. So she's like, I don't know if I can be around this guy for tutoring sessions, but she gets used to it. It's okay. And then he likes to like mess with her because of this, because he knows that she likes him. You could call it teasing, you could call it bullying, but like it's fine. It's good-natured, and he's not being an asshole. He also has a bit of a reputation of being a man whore, but Ro does say that even with this reputation of being a man whore, he's said to be really nice. Anyway, she is nervous about tutoring him because she's never like specialized in dyscalculia or dyslexia, and obviously he hasn't been getting help with the tutoring he's been gotten because the men in that tutoring group are comically evil, like all of them, because they're like, oh yeah, he's like the dumbest guy in school, like no one can help him. But it seems like they're just not really trying, because from what Freddie shows in these tutoring sessions, he can, for the most part, barely read his course material and no one is helping with it. That's because he doesn't want to seem stupid, and so he's like trying to mask that he can't really read, but still, like no one was noticing that when people were tutoring him before, and that's because at some point her dumbass boyfriend was his tutor. Speaking of him, he comes to see Ro one night and he says like, oh, I'm sure you've seen the pictures, and she's like, what's going on? Did someone take pictures of me and Freddie at that party? Because she's nervous about Tyler finding this out because she's like, oh, he doesn't like me flirting with other guys, but they were just talking by a pool. Obviously she doesn't remember anything from that night, but her roommate told her all about it, and so she's like, oh, I don't want Tyler finding out about that. And also she talked to Freddie about it and he was like, oh yeah, it's like all forgotten, even though he really enjoyed his time talking to her that night. And so he's like really sad that she doesn't remember. Anyway, he instead pulls out a photo of him making out with another girl, and he's like, this wasn't real, like this wasn't me. And she's like, be so serious, that's the girl that you've told me not to worry about for years now. You've cheated on me with her before, like this isn't new. And he's like, no, but like this is like taken out of context, like this wasn't like how it happened. And then she like doesn't talk to him for a while. But that's like where we're at right now. She should never talk to this man again, because genuinely every single time she's like, oh yeah, but like I'll probably get back together with him though. And she's not telling anyone about this information, that there's literally photos going around of him with another girl. She said like the underlying reasons why she stays with this man, because like does like great grand gestures for when he fucks up, so then she'll get back together with him. But like genuinely have a backbone, girl. You need it because he is crazy. Anyway, Freddie and Ro have some like flirty tension going on, like they're cute together. I just genuinely want her to break up with her boyfriend. So any flirting that she's doing with another man, I don't even care, because her boyfriend is genuinely comically evil, so I don't even care if she's like slightly cheating. Even though she claims that she's in love with him, I don't believe it. I genuinely don't believe how anyone could be in love with that man. Specifically with Freddie in relation to biology, which is what he has to pass, he is having issues with the teacher. He privately meets with her, and she's also in charge of like deciding this grant thing that Ro is going for, because I think she wants to go into something in science, and all the men around her are trying to say like, oh, you shouldn't go for it because like you're not going to win the competition because you're a woman. Her boyfriend says that, by the way. We don't even have time for that. Basically, Freddie has a private meeting with this woman, and the way that they're speaking from his POV in his head anyway, they definitely had a relationship, and she's a professor. So I'm really scared, getting flashbacks from the last book for real, but like, she should be fired. I'm sorry, she should be fired because she locks the door. Like, they go into her office, she locks the door, and they have a convo, and he's like, please, I don't want to take your class, like, let me take any other class. And she's like, I'm the only one teaching it this semester, you have to take it this semester. She's like, I'm really sorry, I would have valued your feelings more. What does that mean? And did you groom this young boy? I get that he's technically an adult, but I actually don't believe that, because what do you mean that I should have valued your feelings more? And he makes a comment about the dress that she's wearing, and so I have a feeling they had a relationship they weren't supposed to have. And I'm really scared for his safety, to be honest. I hope this is a misdirect. I really hope that she didn't groom him for real, but I have a feeling that that's not what's going on, judging that he doesn't want to take her class. Anyway, tutoring is going on, and she's like making a whole plan for him to like get better in his studies and all that, to keep his ability to play hockey. I think that's it, other than like the side plots going on with her roommate, because her roommate's like fighting for custody of all of her brothers or something like that. There's a whole different storyline going on there. Also, her full name is Rosalie, which she tells him when she's drunk, because she never told anyone before that, like even her boyfriend doesn't know, but like that's so Twilight of her. Also, they do get an offense for a thing that I hate, which is the fact that she's surprised that he can pick her up, because he like moves her to a place when she falls on the ground. She's like, oh, I'm 5'9" and so lanky, how can he pick me up? Girl, he plays hockey. Like, even if you're 5'9", you're tiny. That just pisses me off whenever I see it in books anyway. But yeah, it's one offense that I give it. I am way more engaged than I was last book, so I think I'm going to keep on reading it tonight, at least until I get tired, and then I'll see you when I update next. I'm back with a 50% update. I read a little bit more than last time. Here's where we're at in the crochet project currently. Place your bets now about what it's going to be, because it looks like nothing as of right now, but hopefully it ends up looking like something. This is the biggest hint. Where we left off, I think I was just complaining about the fact that Tyler is an evil man, and he continues to be an evil man in the next 30%. He decides that he wants to make the relationship work again, and of course Ro agrees, because she's like stuck in this cycle with this man. And so he decides to make amends by inviting her to a date at like a fancy restaurant, and so she shows up, and she looks all pretty and stuff, and then he stands her up, as in like he's like 30 minutes late, then 3 hours late, and she stays the entire time. Anyway, when she is walking out of this restaurant crying because she is so upset that her boyfriend set her up, none other than Freddie finds her, and so he ends up driving her home. And he's also with another girl, so she's like, oh my god, this is even worse, I'm like crashing his date right now. But he doesn't seem that bothered, and also he drops off the girl that he was with and then takes her to like a park. They have like a mini little date, if you will. He's doing anything in his power to get Ro away from this evil man. He has his own personal beef with Tyler, judging from the fact that Tyler's like an awful man, and so he's like told him to his face that he's stupid before, even when he was tutoring him. So he has every right to be mad at him, also for the fact that he's a terrible boyfriend. Freddie's real name is Matt. I did figure that out. And Ro does call him Matty now, like where I'm at, and he really likes the nickname because that's what his mom used to call him. And I did figure it out. His mom is dead. I don't know what she died from. I think we're gonna figure it out later. Some flashbacks that we also get from his childhood is that his dad was very like controlling about his hockey career in specific, while his mom was kind of like go with the flow, like if you want hockey then you can do hockey, like she's not forcing it on him. But his dad is the opposite, because his dad is an ex-player who got like kicked out, I think, for a fight. I don't know the specifics on that, but his dad used to play and his dad was really good, and so he wants Freddie to be good by association. Freddie also begins to have beef with this guy that joins their team, because he was the reason that their captain, who was the guy who left that I talked about last time, that was at that party talking to her friend, they got in a fight in the game. That's how he got injured, and so he had to leave. Sorry, I explained that like so bad. But the captain on Freddie's team who had to leave and was talking to Ro's friend, I don't remember his name, so that's why I'm like talking and just think he's the captain of the team. And he was out for a while, and that was because the other guy, who is like violent and mean and no one likes him, he's the reason why. And so they're like all beefing with him. Freddie especially, just because he like really cares about his captain, so he's like, you're the reason that he's out, and he's acting weird. Which another reason that he's acting weird is because he has a situationship going with Ro's friend, and because of this, Freddie has like crazy one-sided beef with Ro's friend and like literally hates her guts, because he's like, she's doing my captain wrong, when like literally she's just a girl. She's a girl dealing with her own issues because she's fighting for custody of her brothers. So, like, let the girl live, for real. And he's also mad at her for, like, being a bad friend to Ro, just because she has her own stuff going on, so she's not, like, completely locked in about what's going on in Ro's life. After getting set up at a date, Ro then decides to give Tyler another chance, aka he invites her to like a weekend by themselves, and then he ends up changing plans and they go to a hockey game with his friends instead. And it's like first hockey game of the season, I do believe, but it's the first time that Ro sees Freddie play, and she's like really excited to go see him play. But she's not happy about the fact that her boyfriend literally changed plans, so then they would be doing a group activity instead of they were supposed to be doing like a one-on-one. And then he actually ends up getting drunk with all his friends instead of, hanging out with her. And she gets really pissed at him, but she's like, okay, fine, I'll drive you home because they're like hammered. But then he's like, no, like, I'm driving, I'm fine. She's like, no, you're fucking not. And he's like, stop being a bitch, for real. Like, he literally is like saying this to her face, and she's like, oh my god, I hate this man, for real. And then he ends up like backing her against a wall and like talking about how she is just like so stuck up and like, I don't know how I deal with you all the time, stuff like that. Very mean language, let's just say that. And the guy that Freddie hates from his team, because it's after the game ends up going to save her because he was like there outside, and which is nice. Shout out to him, I guess. Because of this, Tyler gets scared off because it's like a big hockey guy. And so he ends up taking the car, which was her ride there, and all of her stuff. So she's stranded there like an hour away from campus without her dorm room key or like her wallet. But the guy from Freddie's team goes to the team bus and is like talking about it. And so Freddie hears about it and goes to go see her. And then he ends up asking his coach, and she ends up driving on the team bus home. On this car ride though, she is like genuinely crashing out for good reason. Her boyfriend literally like practically broke up with her, and he was like backing her against the wall and being all scary. And I guess a good thing that came out of this was this is her epiphany, because she's like, oh my god, I literally hate that man, I'm never talking to him again. This is her final straw with Tyler. But of course he is still in the like study circles that she's in, still in some of the classes, and so he is around her, and he's making very, very gross comments around her all the time, especially when she's with Freddie, because he brings up with Freddie in the room about like the bet that he made that he would try and have sex with her, which is actually evil. And Ro is very embarrassed, but Freddie's just like, whoa, you're a freak. She also was like constantly degraded by him and his friends just because she's a woman. And like, I think it's during like an office hours session for biology or something like that, she's like explaining a concept to Freddie because she's his tutor, if that makes sense. And she does it like a very simple way because that's how he understands things. But then Tyler's making fun of her and be like, oh yeah, like you're like a kindergarten teacher. And keep in mind, the biology professor, who's the freak professor that should be fired, that definitely had a relationship with Freddie beforehand, is there. And she does nothing just because she is evil and won't defend a woman even though she is a woman. It's because she should be in jail, Speaking of her, Freddie is actually passing her class, but is struggling in math especially. And so he ends up having to have a meeting with his math professor, and I assume like the dean of the college, I really don't know. It's a meeting with someone, and it's basically about how if he doesn't pass math, then he's gonna not graduate, and he has to graduate for his hockey scholarship, I do believe. The biology teacher isn't even supposed to be there, but she like shows up because she's like, I'm really interested in his academics. Freak behavior, because I know that she has bad vibes. Like, I'm scared. Ro ends up crashing the meeting because they are like not giving him the proper accommodations that they should be giving him with both the dyscalculia and the ADHD. That's because he's in like a really hard math class for his degree. Like, it doesn't make sense that he's in the math class that he's in. And so she gets him registered for another math class instead, so he doesn't have to take the hard one, which is what he should have been doing from the beginning. But she basically like argues the correct way for it, and he gets really touched by this because that's what his mom used to do with his like academics and stuff. She would like fight for him, and he is really grateful. In relation to parents as well, Freddie is currently being called by his dad, but like is ignoring his calls because he's like, I hate that man, for good reason, because his dad is like insane and just like very pushy about his career and stuff. Relationship wise, there's not a lot of updates, only for the fact that Ro was caught up in the whole Tyler thing, and so they didn't really do anything. And also Ro was stuck in the way of like, Freddie is so out of my league, like that could never happen. They definitely like each other. Ro does ask that he acts like they're kind of dating, at least like around Tyler, but Freddie already does that anyway. She does have a like list of things that she wants to do in college. It's like a bucket list sort of thing, and Freddie does find it. I don't remember why he's in a room, but he finds it, and he finds it endearing that it's exists, even though Tyler used to make fun of it, and that's why she like was hiding it away, because she was constantly made fun of for it. And that was because a lot of the things were sexual, and so half of them were crossed off because of Tyler, but like he was doing them begrudgingly, like he was not into it because he just, I guess, wasn't into having sex with his girlfriend, like freak behavior, I guess. In reality, he actually thought she was freak behavior because he thought that she was doing too much, I guess. Yeah, I think that's it. It has been 2 days since I read it, so I really don't know if I'm missing anything, and I didn't write any notes. 75% update and new camera angle because natural light is actually working with me today. I actually wrote notes this time, so any information that I give you is most likely correct. Ro and Freddie end up going to, I think it's like a hockey party. It's a party. That's all that matters. She is talking to this like football guy from campus, and he gets really jealous. And so he like pulls her away because of it, and they end up kissing in the hallway. And not only this, but then they go to his room because it's at his house. And then she does indeed like ride his thigh and what follows, and then gets really embarrassed because of it. And so she like runs off to the bathroom. Then she doesn't want to talk about it, so they don't talk about it. But then they go to another party, which is a Halloween party. And she is dressed up as Dorothy, and he is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Anyway, he gets hammered at this Halloween party. She is not. And so she ends up getting him back to his house and washing off all the green paint that's on him. And then while he's drunk, he asks her to like stay the night. And so she does. And they just end up cuddling and going to bed. And then hop skipping and jumping a little bit. There's like another party going on. It's like a gala. But Sadie is going because the captain, I figured out his name is Reese. And he invited her because they're like getting more relationship-y. Anyway, this means that Ro is watching her brothers. And so she is staying behind even though she wanted to go, because she wanted to go with Freddie. When she is dropping off the boys at like a different spot that I think someone was supposed to pick them up, whoever picks them up, which I think is their dad, gets in a car crash. I don't know why, because it didn't happen inside the POV of the two younger brothers or the dad that was driving. So I have no idea what happened. It was just like in a summary after in Freddie's POV. So I have no idea. Basically, whatever happens makes Ro feel bad because she was the one that dropped them off, but it really wasn't her fault. And so Reese sends her like a nasty text. I like no idea what it is, but he's very protective of those boys because he is in love with Sadie. Because of this nasty text, she's like crying in her room. And so Freddie goes to go check on her. And then he calls her mom on behalf of her, which is crazy because he's like, can I use your laptop for something while you go shower? And she's like, yeah. And he calls her mom and talks to her for like 30 minutes while she's in the shower. But he stays with her after, and they end up sharing her twin bed because I guess they're not allowed to sleep on the couch. Like, I feel like that had more room, but whatever. While they're in said twin bed, she has a dream about the whole thigh situation that I talked about first. So they end up actually doing something in said twin bed. And she is getting through trauma of having an emotionally abusive boyfriend because she's like, no, I shouldn't be asking for anything, because Tyler just never gave her any options like sexually. And so like she's working through that. But they're very awkward after this encounter because like that was crossing the bounds of friendship in a lot of ways. And so they are struggling after this. Also, I forgot to mention this in the first 50% of this book, but the nickname that he has for her is Princess, which I just like, I cannot get behind. I'm sorry. It gives me the ick every single time I hear it. And I think it's a trauma started from a fan fiction that I read, but I actually can't connect it to anything. I'm just gonna bet it's that. Anyway, soon after this encounter, Ro is back in the biology classroom because she's like getting ready for class. And then the freak professor is basically manipulated by Tyler because Tyler says like, oh yeah, Ro's been drawing back just because we broke up. Like, she's been not a team player as of recent. And so the professor like makes her like commit to doing like hangouts with the study group to do studying, I guess. I don't know why they have like pre-planned hangouts if it's their tutoring group. I don't get it. Anyway, it's because that she will search for male validation and not agree with a woman ever. So it's because she's in love with young boys. With Freddie, his dad ends up coming to the hockey rink, which like he's been avoiding his dad hardcore, so this is not ideal. And he basically berates him for fun, I guess. Like, there's no reason for him to be doing this. And what Freddie says in his POV is that he'll make Freddie strive for greatness, even though he doesn't want him to be a better hockey player than he was. So like he doesn't want Freddie to be better than him, but he also doesn't want him to suck. So it's a weird mix. But while berating him, he also starts talking shit about his mom, which is crazy. And so he like calls her a bitch, and then Freddie like crashes out. And the guy that he doesn't like on his team figured out his name too. His last name's Kane, so they just call him Kane. He ends up threatening his dad to like go out of there because he's fully serious about having to beat him up if he doesn't leave. So Freddie, because of this, crashes out, goes back to his room, and then he's trying to call Ro because he's like, the only other person I would call in this situation is my mom, but my mom isn't alive, so let me call Ro. She ends up answering, but then he ends up hearing Tyler in the background. And this is because she is at what was supposed to be like a hangout that she was supposed to go to. And it turns out that Tyler just rigged it so that it was like a date that she didn't want to be on. And so she like ran to the bathroom, answered the phone, and Tyler was like calling after her. And so that's what Freddie heard. And so he's like, oh, you're busy, I'm sorry. And then he hung up and he like crashed out even further, if you will. And in the next chapter, he wakes up the morning after this and he doesn't remember what happened that night. But basically what happened is that he went to a bar, and it's indeed the bar that he used to go to with the freak professor. I could smell that professor-student relationship from a mile away. And I have an inkling that it must have been in his first year of college. I know it. He says it like, oh yeah, when I was younger. So like he must have been like 18, 19. There's no way that woman didn't groom an 18, 19-year-old. There's no way. Anyway, he wakes up in none other than her bed. And so he's like, how did I get here? What happened? And she is being weird. And apparently she was also married. I don't know if she's still married, but she's still taking college boys back to her bed. So yeah, they didn't actually do anything because he didn't want to, even in his drunken state. But the bar called her to pick him up because he was like so drunk that it was not manageable. And Ro tried to look for him. Like, she called him like 13 times and then like texted him a bunch, but he wasn't on his phone. And then he was also taken by the number one groomer in the school, and who only likes her boy students. And Ro is at the library for the rest of that day because she's like figuring out this research proposal that Tyler was supposed to be helping her with, but obviously that didn't happen because it was a planned date instead. And so she's figuring it out in the library. But then she finds Freddie at her dorm room door because he's like really worried about the fact that he didn't answer her calls, and so he's just like waiting there for her. And it's like 9 p.m. at this point, so he waited there from like 2 to 9. But she invites him in, and then he trauma dumps about everything except for the evil professor thing. Like, he does not share that. And I have a feeling that's going to be found out in the last 25%. And what happened is that his mom got sick, was supposed to live for 6 months, but then she only made it 4, and he was about like 16, I think, when it happened. And this made his dad 100% worse than he already was, and he was already like a shit father to begin with, and so this did not help, and it made him even more focused on Freddie and controlling his future, basically. His good father figure was his old hockey coach that he had when he was a kid, and his name was Archer, I think. And I think his mom knew his hockey coach from high school, like they went to college together. And I think they were in love. That's the vibe I'm getting. They were in love. At least Archer was in love with his mom, but I don't know if she reciprocated that because his mom and his dad weren't married. But this also meant that his dad was like a man whore constantly. I don't know if Rose shares this exactly when he shares this, but like the situation with her parents is that her dad had a stroke a few years back, and that led him to like not be able to talk or walk very well, at least. And so she started going by Ro because of this, because it was easier for him to say than Rosalie. They are having a heart-to-heart. That's the moral of the story. And then she offers for him to stay the night, but she just has to go shower. And then while he's waiting for her to finish showering, he has an epiphany. He's like, I need to know if this girl likes me right here, right now. And so he barges into the bathroom and says like, do you like me? While she's in the shower. And then she does indeed say that she likes him. It leads to a confession of sorts on both sides. And then they do indeed do things in the shower. And then when they're back into her room, he finds the list again of like the bucket list of things to do in college, and he's like, hey, this is fun, we should do this. And she's like, no, it's stupid anyway, because she's deflecting from the fact that Tyler hated it. He's like, no, I want to do these things with you. And she's like, well, it's also up to you because you're not just a body to be used, you know. And this is also seen when they go on an actual date, and it's to like a bar. I think it's like a karaoke bar, but they have like live performers and stuff. And so they're like dancing. And then while they're dancing, he ends up seeing the freak professor at the bar. And he's like, what is she doing here, freak? Because she is staring at him. And it's like weird. And so he goes up to the bar and like is getting another drink. And he's like, you should get out of here because you're being a freak and you're being weird. And she's like, how is it going with rap? Like, literally, you're a professor. You shouldn't be wondering about these things. But anyway, him seeing his groomer, if you will, leads him to be incredibly insecure, because basically what she said with him was like, be like, oh, you weren't anything serious, even though he was like kind of seriously in love with her. So this leads him to think that he's like not enough. And so the only way that he can be enough for Ro is through sex. And so he then tries to have sex with her in the car, and she's like, no, stop that, because she knows something's wrong. And this leads him to be a little awkward as well. And so she ends up driving home and just like drops him off at the house. And then another one of the hockey boys drives her home. And so I assume we're going to be diving into the whole professor-student relationship next 25%. I'm sorry, that's actually crazy to me, is that like you are showing up at a bar where your students are dancing and you're like, how's it going? Also, the fact that she would pick him up from the bar and then take him back to her home and be like mad when he wasn't doing anything, even when he was drunk. I need this woman arrested so bad. I will keep this brief only for the fact that this little one wants to go to sleep and he's tired of me having a light right here. I did indeed finish the book. It is done. Starting right off at 75%, we get the whole lore of the professor-student relationship. Thank you very much. And as I said, it's a grooming relationship. I knew it. He was basically coming right off of the death of his mother, so he was grieving hardcore, and this led to a bit of an alcohol problem, because he's a freshman in college and doesn't know how to understand what he was going through. And this leads to him meeting, don't know her last name. She's a doctor of some sort. Her first name's Carmen. She sees this boy who is heavily drinking all the time, and she's like, I think I'm going to pick that one. And she is married and keeps this a secret from her husband. And eventually her husband finds out and like asks about it. And once he figures that he's a student, they start arguing, and Freddie's just like standing there because he's like, what's going on? During this argument, Freddie's like, I thought that we were a thing. Like, I love you. And then she's like, oh, like she was not into it like he was. And that's because she is a freaking groomer and weird. Like, this isn't the first time that she cheated on her husband. Obviously, from the fact that her husband was not very surprised by this, they were just like arguing. And it's probably not the first time that she's been with a student. Let's be real. Anyway, yeah, she was basically just taking advantage of him, which is so sad. And he feels bad about the situation because he's like, I didn't know she was married. Like it wasn't my fault. And he's explaining all of this to Ro because he ends up having a lot of like flashbacks while he's at practice one day, and it like leads him to like completely crash out. And he's like, I gotta go see Ro. So he tells her everything. And she feels so bad for him because she's like, oh my god, you literally got groomed by this freak professor. And she decides right then and there that she's going to pull out of the program that she's in with Carmen because she was going for like her study. Because that's what her tutoring group is. And she's like, I'm going to pull out of that. It's not even the thing that I really want to do. It's just something that Tyler like basically forced me into. So she's like, I'm getting out of that ASAP. I literally hate that woman. And yes, as you should. They end up staying together the entirety of Thanksgiving break because they're both staying on campus. So they end up doing a lot of stuff, as in like having sex a lot, which like is expected. I wasn't surprised, but it's like a few chapters in a row of just them having sex, and I'm like, okay, guys. They go on a real date, and it goes well compared to the first one. He takes her ice skating, which she's never skated before, and so she sucks. And he is obviously a hockey player, so he can skate very well. And then later, both her and Sadie are staying at the hockey house because Sadie is now like 100% in a relationship with Reese, and they're like together. And she also sprained her ankle for something. Do not know the context. But because of this, she's being like carried around everywhere, even though she does not want to be. So they're staying there together, which is kind of cute because they can have girls' night whenever the boys are at practice, you know? Then Ro is going home for Christmas break because she misses her parents. She brings Freddie home with her because obviously he doesn't have much of a family to go back to because he has his freak father and he does not want to see him. They go to her parents' house, and her parents live on the outskirts of Solvang, California, which is because she's mentioned, oh yeah, I miss California, like that's where I lived. If you asked me to name any place where she lived in California, I would have never said Solvang. Imagine living on the outskirts of Solvang. So yeah, they go to Solvang during Christmas time, which is so fun. That's the ideal time to be in Solvang. It's a very enjoyable time. He's like talking to her dad and stuff, and her dad can carry like some conversations. It just like takes a while for him to speak. Very good vibes over Christmas. Her mom loves him, and Ro also talks to her mom about her crazy ex-boyfriend because her mom is like, oh, we never met your old boyfriend. And she was like, yeah, he was actually like a raging asshole. I just never told you guys because I didn't want to like worry you. And her mom's like, no, you're free to tell us anything, of course. After the holiday season, Ro talks to Freddie about calling his old hockey coach because he was like obviously the good father figure in his life, and she thinks that it would be good if he reconnected with him because he's been ignoring him for like years. I'm talking ignoring his calls at all times and never texting him back. Just because he is kind of like a great reminder of his mom, and so he didn't want to like remind himself of that grief. He does agree that it would probably be good for him, and so he calls him, and they really have a really good conversation where he's like updating him on his life and everything. And Archer basically says that like he was point blank in love with his mom. Like he says it, even though everyone knew, bro. Literally everyone knew. They both talk about how they miss her like a lot. And to pull out of the study group and stuff, Ro has to talk to Tyler personally because he's like the head of it. And so she goes to have a conversation with him. She's like, hey, I'm pulling out of the program. And he's like, oh, is it because you wouldn't be able to do it because you're a girl? Literally freak behavior. But she's like, for your information, I don't have to tell you why, but it's not because of that. And like, stop belittling me. And then he like calls her a slut because literally like there's no one in his body that respects women. And freak ass professor is indeed watching this from her office window doing nothing because of course she is. Freddie ends up showing up when she's having the conversation and like defends her and stuff. And this is when Tyler brings up the fact that her first kiss was with Freddie, and she told him this because that was her boyfriend. And no one believed her because she was saying like, oh yeah, my first kiss was this like hockey hotshot. Like no one believed her, especially not her boyfriend because her boyfriend hated her. So Tyler's saying this as like a way to like embarrass her because she never told Freddie this because that's kind of like embarrassing if you're like, oh yeah, like I was bragging about the fact that you were my first kiss. But Freddie loves it because he's like, you're telling me that my girlfriend's first kiss was me, and I like obviously he doesn't remember it because he was drunk. He's like, that's the best news I could ever have because I'm in love with this girl. And then Tyler is saying like, oh yeah, and she had like a raging crush on you the entire time we were dating. And Freddie's like, you think that's a bad thing? Like the fact that my girlfriend was crushing on me the entire time you were dating. Like, literally, it's not having the effect that he thinks it is. And as they're leaving, Ro does talk to Freak Professor, and she's like, hey, I'm pulling out of your thing. And Carmen's like, why? She looks at Freddie, and she's like, I think you know why. The fact that she groomed a literally 18-year-old who was grieving his mother. Like, I'm talking maybe a month after she died. He was heavily drinking, and she was like, let me get with that man. What are you talking about? She got a new like professor that she's going under for like the cohort study that she's doing. I still have no idea what she's studying for in specifics. I literally do not care. It's something in medicine. Is she studying under someone with a doctorate? That's all I know. He does pass his finals for the semester. So tutoring did something indeed. And this means that they only have one semester left of college, which is great. For a hockey game, Ro ends up bringing her parents as well as Archer to like one of Freddy's games, and it's like one of his best games because he is very happy about the fact that he has like a sense of family because he hasn't had that like since his mom died. And I think that's all that happens in plot because there's a lot of sex that happens in this last 25%, and that's because they're finally like together and officially dating. And you know what? Go them. That's fine. But in the epilogue, oh my god, shocked my core. I literally you could not have mentally prepared me for what I was gonna hear in the first like 5 seconds of this epilogue because it's a 5-year time skip. 5 whole years, which is crazy because it opens up with Freddy, who goes by Matt mostly now because Freddy was more of like the persona of like the guy who gets chicks on campus, you know? Like that wasn't really him. And also he doesn't connect to his last name, which we'll get to. He is going to Rose's graduation, as in graduation for her doctorate. So it's been a while. They are married. And so he took her last name because he never really connected to his own because it was his dad's. And he doesn't like want to be seen as anything close to him. So now he goes by Matt, or in the case of Rose, she calls him Maddie, which is so 13 going on 30.
I don't want to be original, Maddie. I want to be cool.
So not only are they married, they've been married for a while, they have a whole ass kid. Like they have like a baby. And Archer is also at the graduation, and he is like a grandfather to the child because Matt always considered him a father figure, and so why not be a grandfather to the baby? And they named the baby Elsie, which was Matt's mom's name. Anyway, she graduates and such. She gets a doctorate, shout out to her. And then the second epilogue is in her POV, and it's a 1 year after that. Elsie is now 2, and it's just like a normal ass thing where she's like updating on where her parents live because her dad unfortunately had a second stroke, and so now he's way less mobile than he was. And they move her parents down to Dallas, a single level house, so then he doesn't have to move around as much. And they're closer to the medical practice that Ro works for. And she is just like doing work, I guess. I still don't know what she does. But she goes home to where Archer is watching Elsie and Matt is cooking. Archer lives in a guest house basically to where they live because he just watches Elsie a lot, which works. And she actually tells Matt that she's pregnant again, even though they were planning on waiting a little bit until they had a second kid. But of course, she's pregnant again. Are we surprised? No. But I do have something to applaud here in the fact that usually, especially like hockey romances, whatever, romances of such with a sport variety, I feel like in that epilogue, they always have kids, which I'm fine with. That's their prerogative. I literally don't care. But it's always like, whatever the girl does, she just becomes a mother. And like, I support mothers at the end of the day. But she is a working mother in this one. Not only working mother, she's something in the medical field. I wish I knew. Literally, I wish I knew. But like, shout out to her. At least like she got to still follow what she wanted to do because she was like very studious in college. And I feel like I don't see that a lot in romance books, but maybe I just forget. I have no idea. He is still playing hockey. Of course he is. I think he signed with the NHL. I assume 5 years from now. I don't know why they didn't talk about that. I feel like I would have remembered if they said that he signed to a specific team. He was talking about signing to a specific team throughout the whole book. I wish I could remember what it is. It's probably Dallas. I'm stupid. Sorry. Yeah, I think he signed to Dallas, and so they live in Dallas, near her parents. That makes sense. I cannot believe that they jumped 5 years in the future. That scared the shit out of me, genuinely. I enjoyed this book so much more than the first one. Oh my god, yes. I did it actually. I was getting really sad when they were talking about like Archer and Matt's mom because like it was genuinely heartbreaking because he was like, oh yeah, like literally my soulmate got taken away from me, and I was like, shut up. I was like, literally shut up because I was really sad. So I was actually invested in the characters here. I guess this could have been like written better, but I don't really care about that shit. I was entertained. So this is like a 3-star book. Last but not least, We've Made by Ali Hazelwood. I'm really scared about this one too, but I think it's going to be like those real short movies, and I do enjoy those. They're slop in a good way. So I'll probably start that tomorrow, and so now I will let this little boy sleep because he is not happy with me talking and this light on. Hi, it's been so long that I actually ended up like doing all my laundry, and so now all those clothes are actually clean. But yeah, it's been a few days just simply because I think I was reading too much that I had to put a stop to it. And now I'm actually back with a 50% update because guess what? This one's actually kind of good. Not gonna lie. So with a bit of background, Mate by Ali Hazelwood is actually a sequel to the first supernatural book that she had, which was about a vampire. Did I read that book? No, of course not. And so I am thoroughly confused. But we're getting there. So we first meet our main character, Serena, who's actually a werewolf-human hybrid. And she only realized that she was like part werewolf a few years ago because she started seeing like weird symptoms that were very unhuman-like. The thing is, like, humans in this universe know about werewolves and vampires, and so, like, she recognized that it was werewolf stuff, and she's like, oh, I'm half werewolf. But she actually doesn't have any memories before that she was, like, 7, and she was in an orphanage, but she has no memories of if her parents died, anything like that, just because the only thing that she can remember first was, I think, going to an orphanage at 7. And she's actually, like, best friends with the main character of the first book, which was the vampire, and her name is Misery, which is crazy, but it's fine. Serena, I think, was in the first book, and so the book doesn't give you a lot to work with because I think you're already supposed to know who she is, but of course I was jumping in on the second book of a series, and so I just kind of had to piece some things together as we went. But basically, the rundown of, like, the universe that they're in, there's different packs of werewolves for different regions, and then all the different regions have a different alpha, and Misery is the mate of the alpha of the Southwest pack, which I assume is like California, because I think they're in the US, strictly the US. And his name is Lo, and he is just a normal werewolf, to my knowledge. And I think there's like some drama surrounding the fact that a vampire is with a werewolf, but they don't go into that in this book, and I assume they went into it in the last book, so it doesn't matter. That's the moral of the story. And Serena says some things about how, like, she stayed with Misery more out of, like, companionship because she was more of, like, a servant because she wasn't as important, because Misery was, like, part of a well-respected family, but don't quote me on that because I didn't read the first book. And at the beginning of the book, Serena is all by herself in the forests of Oregon, so she's actually in Northwest Territory instead of Southwest, which is where she was staying before. She's being assaulted by a vampire who's, like, hunting her, and this is because she's unable to fight back because she can't shift to her wolf form, which she could do before. And then she ends up getting saved by the alpha of the Northwest pack, whose name is Cohen. And she has some history with Cohen for the fact that they are actually mates, aka the first time they technically met, Cohen walked up to her and was like, hey, you're my mate, but we cannot be in a relationship, as in, like, we are not going to be. And she was like, I don't even know you, so that's fine by me. And he just, like, told her for the fact that she would like to know, I guess. And also he told, like, all the neighboring packs that they were mates so then no one would attack her. But everyone knows that they're actually not together because word spread quickly that she rejected him because she was like, I don't know you. And he was fine with that because they couldn't be in a relationship anyway. Reasons we will get into later. And after he saves her, aka he kills the vampire that's attacking her, he takes her back to a safe house in the Northwest, and they end up calling Misery and Lo. And Serena is talking about a plan of purposely, like, making her location known because all these vampires are hunting her, just so that she can protect another girl named Anna. Anna is like a 7-year-old girl who is also a hybrid, but the hybridness of it all is actually really rare, so that's why she's being hunted. And before this, she did like a press run to like introduce herself to the world as a hybrid, because as I said, humans know about everything, and so it had like mixed reviews, as in like humans were thinking that she was too werewolf to be considered a human still, but other humans were like, hey, you're still one of us. Other people are hunting her only for the fact they want to see like how she's a hybrid and stuff like that, so then they can like become more powerful, I guess. But the reason that Serena was off by herself and was vulnerable to getting attacked was because she went up there by herself on purpose because she has a terminal illness that she got the prognosis of to die in like 6 months. So she wanted to go be by herself because she's having really bad episodes of like great pain and also like memory blackouts. And with the specific disease that she gets diagnosed with, it has like violent episodes, and she doesn't want to put the people that she's living with in danger. So she's like, oh, I'll just go live off by myself. And obviously this doesn't last long from the fact that she gets attacked. And everyone is unaware of this diagnosis except for her and her doctor because she doesn't want to tell anyone. But Cohen decides to move her in with him to protect her from further attacks. And she is not happy about this because she still has the episode where she could attack someone without even knowing it. And the relationship between Serena and Cohen, they have actually known each other for like a few years because Serena has been living with Misery and Lo, and Lo and Cohen are like really good friends only from the fact that they are alphas of like neighboring region. And so they talk every so often, but it's just like not romantic. And even though Cohen says that he doesn't want a romantic relationship, he does indeed act like a possessive boyfriend everywhere they go. And they banter and stuff, aka like she makes fun of him, and then he just calls her annoying most of the time. You can see Ali Hazelwood writing this book. Like the way that these characters speak, I'm like, this is an Ali Hazelwood book. Technically, I've only read Love Hypothesis, but I think that's enough. I think I know her writing based off that. Like, if you put these two characters outside of being werewolves, they could just be in a STEM school, and then it'd be an Ali Hazelwood book like normal. Also, this is set in like modern times, so they are mentioning like lingo and stuff like that, and I'm like, this is not real. It does throw me off a little bit because I'm like, why are you mentioning words that don't make sense in this environment? Also, they're in the Northwest Territory. This is so Twilight of them. I'm pretty sure at one point they literally drive through Washington. So I'm like, you guys are in Twilight right now. Anyway, she is forced to move in with him in like a cabin sort of thing where a bunch of his like second in commands come and go because he lives there as well. And she finds out from one of his second in commands that he actually has a covenant with the pack to where he has to be celibate. This is for no reason, only for the fact that they're like, oh yeah, if they have a romantic relationship, then the alpha isn't worried about the pack. Which makes no sense because other packs don't even follow this and they're fine. But he's willing to respect it only for the fact of he became alpha when he was 15. And there was also like a war or something, but Serena is avidly trying to figure out what the war was about, and she still doesn't know. With the knowledge of him having a celibacy covenant, she's like, oh yeah, that's why he didn't want a relationship with me. Because before she just thought that he just didn't fuck with her, and that's the reason that he didn't want a relationship. But it's simply because he has to be celibate and have no even like emotional connections, which doesn't make any sense because like does that mean he cannot have friends? Like, and Serena goes through like nightly episodes because of her condition where she has like high fever and is kind of like loopy and out of it. And during one of these, Cohen ends up finding her in like a very sickly state, and so he helps her like get back to bed and stuff. But then the next morning, she ends up telling him about the whole terminal disease of it all because he asks. Also, while all this is happening, they're trying to figure out who Serena's birth parents are because they're trying to like trace her back to what pack she's from. And her genes aren't telling a lot, so they like go and visit this guy who has been a doctor in the Northwest Pack for a while to see if he recognizes her scent. He doesn't, so it doesn't matter. But while they're on this visit, she is like standing off by the beach because she's just thinking about the fact that she doesn't know where she came from. And then some random guy who's completely naked, which happens a lot in this book actually, because when they shift out of werewolf form, they are completely naked. People are walking around naked too much. That's what I'm saying. Which is actually so Twilight of them. Do you think that Ali Hazelwood watched Twilight and was like, I have to write about this? Because I don't know what the vampire relationship is like. I'm not reading that first book. You literally cannot force me. Anyway, the guy who comes up to her completely naked is a cult follower, and he starts calling her Ava, and he's like bowing down to her because he's like, you're the prophecy, and then he like tries to take her somewhere, and she says, fuck no, literally get away from me, you're weird. And then after she like decides not to go, he throws himself off of a cliff and dies. And Cohen is there and he like tries to stop him from jumping off the cliff, but he can't catch him in time. So yeah, that man did kill himself in front of her. So she's ruminating on that for a while and she is freaked out. Through hanging out and everything, Cohen and Serena end up talking about the fact that she has like 4 months to live by this point now. And they say that if he didn't have the whole celibacy thing and she wasn't about to die, then they probably would have been together. So that's cute of them, I guess. Yeah, this book took a darker turn than I thought it would be. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna die in 6 months. I actually do not hate the main two characters. So that's the reason that I was like reading up until 50% because I was going to stop at 25. Full transparency, I was going to stop. And then I was like, well, I want to know what happens. So I guess that proves that like she was writing a good book. If I was like, I need to see what happened. I think it's mostly because I was so confused that I was like, what does this mean? And so I had to keep on reading. So I guess starting with the second book in a series does do some good in keeping you reading. Most likely I will probably read the last 50% and then come back. Predictions wise, I'm thinking she's not going to die. Unless it'd be a crazy ending of the book, and I honestly applaud that. Okay, so I finished the book. Are we surprised? No. From 50%, we pick off where Serena was talking about, having a terminal disease and all. And so Cohen has her talk to another doctor just for like a second opinion, if you will. And this is a really good thing because it turns out that her old doctor, a man, of course, read her stuff wrong. And turns out she doesn't have a terminal disease at all. She's indeed in heat, which is what, wolves go through, hence werewolves have it as well. And this actually makes sense because I didn't mention this before, but before her like nightly episodes of fevers and everything, she was actually having dreams about sex. So those two things would correlate. Cohen is with her when she hears this news that she's actually going into heat instead. And so he's like, oh, this is a big no-no because I'm not supposed to be doing that. But in his mind, he's the only one who should be doing that with her because they're mates, And she also doesn't want to be having sex with anyone else, which is what all she wants to do when she's in heat. But they end up finding a loophole in the whole celibacy covenant to where if he doesn't touch her, then it's fine. So they do some things related to that. And this is because they're doing stuff before the actual heat because she has symptoms beforehand. And this is like the fevers and all that. And like she feels like she's not going to die if she doesn't have sex. She's also planning to have shots taken before the actual thing starts because she wants to basically not have it happen. So then Cohen doesn't have to break anything because she knows that he's very important to the pack, so she doesn't want to have him jeopardize anything. Even though he is completely down for that because he's like, oh, if my mate needs something, I'll do it. He's completely fine in doing that, but she doesn't want him to ruin his good graces with the like pack leadership. Anyway, when she's on her way to get like one of these shots that like is the opposite hormone than what prolonging the heat whatever in her body, she actually gets kidnapped by the cult leaders. And the main lady who kidnaps her is named Irene, and they bring her to like a safe house somewhere in the Northwest Territory. And she tries to emotionally manipulate Serena by showing her like pictures of her mom and telling her about her. And basically she says Serena was the successful experiment of the cult. The leader of the cult, whose name was Constantine, he basically wanted to become more powerful, and he was a werewolf, but he gained human followers by saying that he would make humans werewolves for fun, I guess. And he is actually Serena's dad, aka the successful experiment was making a werewolf mixed with a human. And so he got Serena's mom pregnant, and she was like a complete human. So then obviously it created a hybrid, which is Serena. And they hold her hostage in this safe house a bit because Irene is like withholding a letter that was from her mom, and Serena really wants to see it. In reality, they're holding her there to wait out Cohen because he will eventually come to save Serena. And then when Cohen finally gets there, the entire story is revealed. And what happened was Cohen's mom was the alpha of the pack before him, and she got around the whole celibacy covenant, aka she had a child, because she was already pregnant when she became alpha. And that's because her and Cohen's dad were mates, and so I guess the leadership just didn't care in respect of her since she had a mate, even though they did care when Cohen had a mate. So Constantine wanted control of the Northwest Pack, so he started a fight, because if you win a fight with the alpha, then you become the alpha. He won a fight against Cohen's mom by purposely targeting her using Cohen's dad. And so this is why they want to keep the celibacy covenant, because they're like, oh, no weaknesses if you don't have emotional attachments. Moral of the story is that both of Cohen's parents were killed. This leads Cohen to become alpha by association because he was like the heir or whatever. And he was 15 at the time. But he sends a mass killing order to the people of the cult because they killed his parents, obviously. This includes Constantine, and it also includes the humans that Constantine used as a shield to buy him more time. This included Serena's mom. So Cohen actually killed Serena's mom and her dad, and she's only finding this out right now because Irene's telling the story. And then Serena was 7 at the time of the attack, and she was in the house that they were attacked in, but she was in a closet. And this is actually seen in the prologue of the book. I just didn't think it was important because I didn't know what the lore was. Basically, Cohen finds her in a closet, brings her out, and gives her to human social services. So that's how she got into an orphanage and all that. And that's because they don't outright kill humans if they're not a threat. So this was like a human 7-year-old girl. They weren't going to kill her just by association of being with the cult. And this news is initially distressing to Serena, only for the fact that she now knows that her mate killed both of her parents and is the reason that she is an orphan. Especially because she realized that her mom was probably not in a great spot, as in probably getting emotionally manipulated by the free cult leader who was Constantine. And so she's like, I really would have liked to know her, but I don't remember her at all. And Irene's trying to make Serena kill Cohen because of this news, and so they hand her a knife, and then she walks over to him and ends up just cutting the binds that are holding his hands together, and so then it becomes an awful brawl. And it's because even though she's sad about the fact that he killed her mom, she also understands that he was a 15-year-old boy who just became alpha and was just recently orphaned. It was the right thing to do when Constantine was a free cult leader. Also, I don't know if these ages are 100% accurate, because I know that there's an age gap, aka I know Cohen is 36 now, and I think she's in her 20s, but I don't know if it's exactly 7 and 15, which would mean an 8-year age gap. I don't know. But just know that she's in her 20s, he's 36 for sure. Again, themes throughout these books. We had age gap in the first one, age gap in this one, and then we had teacher-student relationship in the second one, teacher-student relationship in the first one. Everything ties back to the first book, and I really don't like that. Also, before the fighting happened, Irene knew that Serena was in heat because it's on her scent or whatever, and she was basically planning on having a werewolf orgy because she brought in a bunch of guys and was gonna force Serena to have sex with one of them to help her through her heat. I was that's really weird. I'm sorry, you just met this girl who's your niece. That's really weird. Anyway, after this key traumatic experience, they go back to Cohen's cabin, and now it's too late to stop her heat from happening. The shots won't work anymore, and so then everyone just leaves for a few days, and Cohen stays with her. Everyone just decides to say hush hush about the fact that he's breaking the covenant, because they're as long as he just stays off after, we don't care. They do the deed and such, if you will, for 3 days straight. That's literally a good 10% of this book is just them going at it for 3 days straight. I'm not even lying. And then she feels magically better after. And then Cohen actually decides that he wants to step down from being alpha because he wants to be with Serena forever. And she's you can't do that. You're too important to the pack. And so she says no, even though she does indeed love him and really wants to do that with him. And put a pin in that for later, because they have to go fight more cult people because there's still some scattered around, including Irene because she escaped the initial fight. They try and do a bait situation with Serena, and it doesn't end up working, aka the fight happens elsewhere than where Serena is because the tracker gets moved. The moral of the story is that Serena has to escape where she is by shifting into wolf form because she can do that now. And then while in wolf form, she finds the fight where Cohen is, and it's with Irene as well. And Irene is literally about to shoot Cohen with a gun, and then Serena takes the shot for him while in wolf form. And so she gets shot in one of her legs. Whether it's arm or leg, I literally don't know because she was a wolf. She wakes up in the hospital, and Misery is there with her, and Cohen had to go step out because he's talking to the pack leadership about the whole having a relationship thing because he's not subtle by any means. He literally kissed her in public when he wasn't supposed to be doing that, and so they were talking to him about that. But her and Misery end up having a heart-to-heart about how they both need each other, because Rina obviously didn't tell Misery about all of this, and so she's how would you withhold this from me? And Serena was I didn't want to bug you, and Misery was please bug, we're best friends for a reason, please bug me about your issues. And so they have a heart-to-heart, and they are good terms again. When she comes back to the cabin, Cohen also comes back to the cabin, and he says that the pack leadership decided to just rescind the covenant, because evidently he's a good alpha, and they really don't care anymore, because he still led a good fight against the leaders. And so they can be together, which is fun. And then epilogue. This is instead centered around Caden's POV. It's Caden. No, we're not centered back there. This is centered around Cohen's POV. And it hasn't been like that the rest of the book. It's been centered around Serena. So this is new. He is basically going crazy because the final part of like a mating bond is like you bite each other, and they haven't done that because he doesn't want to pressure her into anything. One day when he finally gets back from like a 3-day business trip, they both miss each other so much that they like immediately start going at it when he gets home, and then she ends up biting him just like happenstance, and they like talk about it because it's like a big thing, and then he bites her as well. So like mating bond secured, if you will, even though it already was. And the book literally ends with them literally having sex. I mean, that's so seriously. Like, just cuts off there. I was kind of gagged by that because I was like, really? We're doing that? But also I should have expected that. But at the end of the audiobook, they do have a little message about how like it's not supposed to be used to train AI models. And I love that. So go them for not supporting AI. Overall, I was not very enthused about the second half of this book. I was really interested in the first half about like where it was going with the whole terminal disease part, and then they immediately abandoned that halfway through, and they were like, actually, they just have to have sex all the time. Sorry, but no. Sorry, but I don't care. So now we have reached the end of the 3 books that I found by happenstance. I did sift through like some of the different screenshots that I found, and these ones were like the most ones that I had no idea about mostly. Overall, the first one was still the worst one, and I can't believe that each of them called back to it. That makes me really sad because I don't want that to be the North Star of this video. But this last one, I would say it was probably a 4 in the first half, and then it dropped down to a 3 simply because I got annoyed by the things that were going on. So yeah, it's probably 3, which is fine. I still enjoyed myself for the first half way more, but that's neither here nor there. And overall, are BOOKTOK recommendations good? I guess if you're looking for that shit. If you're looking for smut in a way that you're going to get it really soon, then yeah, probably. If you're looking for well dived in topics of like the themes that are going on in the book, probably not. I was really interested to see if the last book would talk about like deciding what she wanted to do with the last, months of her life, but then that they just abandoned that, and they were like, they actually have to have sex unless she'll die. Obviously, these are marketed in a way of like looking for the sex scenes because that's what always shows up in the screenshots. Like that's what people are looking for, and that's fine. This is a fun experiment. A little bit. Am I more burnt out of reading than I was at the beginning of this? Maybe. I have the urge to actually like step away from reading TikTok romance after this. So maybe that's a good thing actually. This will just lead you away from BOOKTOK. At the end of the day, I'm not a reviewer or anything. I'm not like a published author or anything. I have nothing to say other than the fact that these are my opinions. So if you actually love these books, please tell me your opinions in the comments. I'm so curious to know what you like. I post reviews on Fable and Storygraph. If you want to check those out, they're going to be in the description, as well as my Instagram, and please consider liking, subscribing. This is different from usual videos that I do, judging that it's my second reading video. So if you enjoyed these type of videos, let me know, and I will make more because they are fun. And thanks for watching.